Here we have a Dark Ages battle, the Battle of Clontarf in 1014. We'll be using a set of rules called Werod, which is a set of rules that are in development at the moment and hopefully will make it to production. The battle was between Brian Boru, who was the High King of Ireland, trying to put down a rebellion led by Sidrig of Dublin, who puts together a force of rebels and mercenaries from various territories. So here we have the rebel forces that have occupied Dublin and various Norse and Viking troops that have arrived by longboat and are forming up outside Dublin, and opposite them we have the loyal troops to the High King of Ireland, and these are made up of various Irish forces and mercenaries and a couple of Norse and Viking troops as well. So both sides move into the attack quite quickly, and here we can see sort of the organisation of the troops. Each formation has a couple of skirmishers, which just signify that there are skirmishers and allow the different formations just to engaging in a little bit of firefighting before the main hand-to-hand combat takes over. Unlike rules like WAB and WAB 2, this actually does allow for different types of formations to be formed quite easily by the troops, so they can be in a basic sort of warband line, or slightly disordered, or in a wedge formation, which actually facilitates sort of quite fast moving across the table. So at the beginning of the game we have a series of challenges that go out between the different chieftains and warlords. A couple of the individual combats don't result in any particular outcome, just a few insults and injuries, but unfortunately for one of the Irish rebels, he comes to a bit of a sticky end. So here we see one of the Irish rebel formations getting into a wedge and advancing quite quickly on the king's position. Skirmishers at the front are covering the formation, so they'll engage the main loyalist Irish line. So as we can see, the loyalist line is formed up in preparation to receive the attack by the rebels, and the troops that are in Dublin itself decide it's time to open the gates and come out and join the fight. There is one formation of troops, which is the warband of the O'Neills, which is just waiting off table but not completely decided which side it's going to fight on at the moment. So at some point during the battle the umpire will make a decision on whose side he's going to fight. Rebel forces on their right flank decide that they're going to start pushing a couple of their formations through the woods in an attempt to outflank the loyalist lines. can see the rebels coming out of Dublin and forming up into wedge formations to attack. Rebels are getting quite close now to the main loyalist line. There'll only be a couple more rounds of skirmishing before the shield walls and wedge formations get into the serious business of hand-to-hand combat. And here we can see a couple of the crews of the Norse and Viking rebel forces just getting ready, just in case they need to make a quick exit. So the wedge formations now contact the main loyalist line. We start seeing quite a few hand-to-hand combats now. Initially the shield walls managed to hold. A couple of them are beaten in the combats, so their formation changes from shield wall and changes to a looser formation, which is a little bit easier for the wedge to attack. But there's no significant breakthroughs yet. And all along the line, the rebel forces which have assumed wedge formations now hit the loyalist line everywhere they can. It's at this point the umpire has decided that the Nail warband will actually support Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland. So they are brought onto the table and they'll fight loyally for their king. So they come on just outside Dublin and join in the fighting there. The rebel troops on their right flank have managed to push around the left flank of the loyalist forces and are pressuring quite hard there. And the shield wall in several places now begins to break up, which is now making it easier for the wedges to defeat them. And unfortunately for the King of Ireland, his left flank does slowly begin to disintegrate. But on the right flank, his troops have a little bit of a better time of it, and they do manage to start pushing back, breaking up a couple of the wedge formations that have been threatening out of Dublin itself. And they start pushing a couple of the rebel formations back towards their boats. The situation on the left flank though is becoming a little bit more desperate, where a couple of the shield wall formations have broken completely and have routed, which now allows the rebels to start slowly rolling up the left flank of the loyalist forces. They're basically just being held in position at the front, and as each shield wall is defeated to the left, the next formation along is then being attacked by the victorious forces. And as you can see here, they're beginning to get around the flank and around the back of the King of Ireland's forces, which is not looking too good. A couple of the rebel formations are defeated themselves outside Dublin, but the loyalists can't follow up fast enough to take advantage of the situation, so they don't actually manage to get into Dublin and retake it. But with their left flank completely collapsing now, the situation is pretty much hopeless for the King of Ireland, and the battle is declared a fairly major victory for the rebels.